let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Hey, what's up, everyone? How you doing? Ben Kissel here with you. Marcus Parks, he was injured, so he can't be here. He's got to edit last podcast on the left because we've been a little bit late with our episodes this week. So thank you all so much for holding on and waiting for us. I'm joined by Travis Morningstar.
My injuries are emotional.
Really? Mm-hmm. I know that about you. So are mine as well. And also, I made a mistake. I talked about this on last podcast on the left. I had the Smooth Move Tea. I went a little crazy on Smooth Move Tea. I didn't realize it's not a smooth move. It's quite a dramatic move, and it's a harrowing situation that I was in the entire evening. I didn't know how strong it was.
This is a diuretic tea? Is this
yes, but I thought it was going to be a smooth move. Like, have a little fun with it.
You've never had a father figure has never told you smooth move X-Lax, and then
No. My family, we were a cheese family. We never needed the stuff. All right. Well, we got a bunch of stuff to get to today. William Barr, he is the new Attorney General, and Heather, I believe it's Nauert. She has been selected to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, taking over for Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, of course, who I guess in the minds of a lot of folks did the best she could given this administration. And of course, when she was over there in South Carolina as governor, she did say, let's take down the Confederate flags. She did some things that were against the grain, I would say, for South Carolina. She's out. Who knows what her political future is going to be. Heather Nauert is a former Fox News anchor. Naturally, that's where Donald Trump likes to go. He always gets the folks from Fox. I made a horrible career decision by turning against Donald Trump. I could have been in the administration. How great would that have been, Travis?
That would have been amazing.
Wouldn't that have been fun? And that I would have no friends. I'd be ostracized for life because I'd be working for the dumbest person to ever sit in the Oval Office. That would be really fun. Okay. And maybe he's not the dumbest. I don't know. I'm just rambling here. So Heather Nauert, she's a former Fox News anchor whose experience in American diplomacy, it's not that elaborate. It's not that extensive. For 19 months, she was the spokeswoman for the State Department, and that was her first government job. President Trump made the announcement as he prepared to board Marine One for a trip to Missouri, and that was on Friday morning. We had a lot of news come out on Friday. So she's going to be the new ambassador to the United Nations, and I actually had a chance to meet her a couple of times when I was at Fox News, and I suppose she was nice. Who knows what the position's really going to require? You do a lot of sitting, you do a lot of listening, and then under this administration, you do a lot of screaming at our allies. So that's kind of fun. And then you watch Benjamin Netanyahu come up with a lot of props, and then he talks about Palestine, and then he talks about how just a whole series of different things. Then he has the fun, like, remember that bomb prop he had? Netanyahu. You ever see it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of props at the UN. No one thinks about these people as showmen, but once they get on that world stage, they are just they're regular Hugh Jackmans. They do it. They can sing. They can dance.
And they use a lot of diagrams that look like memes. So that's fun.
Absolutely. So William Barr, he is going to be taking over for this dude Whitaker. Now Whitaker, extremely controversial. Of course, he didn't get Senate confirmation, all this kind of stuff. We know all of that. Which he would need if he wanted to be the permanent Attorney General. He's a bald guy. He kind of looks like, what's the name of the bad guy from Daredevil? The Pinhead? No, is it Pinhead? It's not Pinhead.
Kingpin.
Kingpin. Kind of looks like a thinner Kingpin somewhat. And he's going to be gone now. Of course, it was just a temporary appointment. That's why Donald Trump says it's not unconstitutional. It's totally within the Constitution. It's constitutional because it is a temporary appointment. Does seem like they're holding to that. They have decided to go with this dude, William Pelham Barr. He is going to be the new Attorney General. He has said things that, Donald Trump would like, specifically regarding not being able to indict a sitting president. And does he agree with the Mueller investigation? Not really, So there are some things that Donald Trump saw in the guy. I wonder what they could be.
And Barr did serve under George.
He served under
George
R.I.P.
Sr.
Yes, under George Bush Sr., George H.W., R.I.P. This whole week was filled with the ceremonies and, a long-lived, 94 years old. I mean, and of course, I guess he was more of a moderate in some ways. The Willie Horton ads have always come back to sort of haunt him.
Pretty fucked up.
Well, people wanted a Reagan third term, and then they didn't really like him. The Republican Party actually kind of turned away from him, of course, because what happened with H.W., he sort of got caught up in the Grover Norquist, Newt Gingrich, never raise taxes regardless of how much the country may need that money in order to balance our budgets. And he said he's not going to raise them, obviously. And then in a compromise with the Democrats, because, of course, he didn't have the Congress or the full Congress. So he compromised with the Dems. Taxes went up. Theoretically, and then Grover Norquist and the inside of the Tea Party, basically before the seed of the Tea Party, kind of ousted him. And then, of course, Ross Perot coming in 92 also, taking away some of his support, but also Ross Perot took away from both sides. So it is a little bit of a misnomer that he cost him the election. If you look at the numbers, and I think I wrote an article on this or something, you can probably find it. But if you actually look at the numbers, Ross Perot almost took away the same from Clinton. And then there were a lot of people being like, I wasn't going to vote, except for that wonderful little gremlin guy, Ross Perot. He motivated some folks, such as my bus driver growing up. So, yes, George H.W. Bush.
Well, in The Simpsons,
R.I.P.
The Simpsons outlived George Sr.
Now, this is a feud I did not realize. Anyway, long story short, William Barr was also the United States Attorney General from 91 to 93 during the Bush presidency. Bush won, of course.
So in 92, George Sr. had a speech about family values.
Okay, good.
And he said the famous line, the American family needs to be more like the Waltons and less like The Simpsons.
Oh.
And this was, like Married with Children came out, and The Simpsons were really big, getting bigger.
Right.
But they had, I don't know if you remember episodes, like George Sr. was featured in a lot of episodes fighting with Homer. And amazingly, that show outlived him.
And it wasn't like Homer was a big Democrat. I think Homer would probably be, I'm just going to say, probably a Trumper. I think Homer's probably a Trumper if I have to guess. But he also has, he has some desires that perhaps are not being met. And that's what happened in 2016. They said, not all of my desires are being met. And they looked for a hero in the Orange Man in the White House. So William Barr will now be the Attorney General. The Mueller investigation, it seems like it could be coming to a close, but how many times have we said that now? I feel like it's been... honestly, dude, it's like, get on with it. We got to be done soon.
It does feel like we're getting small trailers to a bigger Marvel movie.
Right.
Because he just keeps... it seems deliberate, the little flash of leg he's showing.
Oh, I know.
Because I read the...
If you ever go to it's an old arcade. Mm-hmm. It's in San Francisco. It's on the pier. Mm-hmm. And if you put a quarter in, it was like 5 cents, I think, even. And they have one of those flash. You can just look through
a peephole.
Yeah, like a peephole. It's kind of like a peephole, but with pictures, and then you can thumb through it. And the ladies are showing a lot of ankle.
And this is from this is nowadays.
No, it was from 1910s. It's older.
Oh,
it's an arcade that has vintage games. And I guess this was just a game, being like, can you see the corn on her toe? Because I guess it was saucy to them. But Mueller is sort of a 1910s, flapper right now, just showing a little bit of his calf, perhaps.
A lot of the stuff in that memo with Manafort and Cohen, a lot of it's redacted still.
Oh my God, the whole thing was redacted. I mean, you can't read a damn word of it. So it's hilarious, but nonetheless, big developments. So, new ambassador to the UN, Heather Nauert, and William Barr will be the next Attorney General. Let's talk about this now. So let's talk about what happened with Michael Cohen, specifically with Paul Manafort. It looks like he's still angling for a pardon. It turns out he can't not lie. So, so Mueller was just like, well, you said you were cooperating with us, bro, but then you lied to us again, dude. So I'm sorry. Now we're going to throw the book back at you.
Manafort continues to lie, even though
can't not
Mueller has said, do you understand that we can read your emails and your text messages? Because they have all of that stuff, and Manafort continues to stare this man in the face. He just can't help himself.
I think it's muscle memory. I really don't think these people have ever told the truth for a long period of time. I really don't think they even know what the truth is anymore. I really think for him, it has corrupted his brain so much. He and Roger Stone alike. It's corrupted their minds so much. Politics.
Yeah.
The poison of politics have corrupted who they are as people to the degree where they don't even think they're lying. I really don't think if you were like, tell the truth, like just Paul Manafort, tell me a truth.
A truth.
I don't think he could.
Well, this is a ghoul who like came on the Trump. He agreed to work with Trump for free.
Oh, he was huge. Donald Trump saved his entire life because at this point, Manafort was broke. He was like, dude, I need so much money because he's one of these guys who he's like Johnny Depp. Apparently, Johnny Depp is broke, which I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible because he has like more money than God, or at least did at one point. Manafort was the same way, where he was broke. Trump gave him this gig on the campaign, which is, of course, why we have the situation that we're in right now with the Russians, perhaps, where he just needed money. He needed to get these business contacts. Donald Trump, having this high-level position as head of the dude's campaign, gave him a little bit more carte blanche on the world stage. So he did save his entire financial life. And now, of course, ironically enough, he's going to go to prison, most likely for life, unless, of course, Donald Trump pardons him, which is something that is what he's angling for. And I think it's probable at this point. Wouldn't you think?
You think Trump is going to pardon Manafort?
I think so. It reminds me of, every president gets a couple of pardons there, We're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, speaking of basically getting a pardon here a little bit later on in the episode. We're going to do kind of a deep dive on that disgusting scumbag. Jeffrey Epstein, horrible, horrible guy. But yeah, when it comes to that, I think Manafort's been kind of playing that game the whole time, which is why with the special counsel, he's like, I'm going to tell you that I'm telling the truth. I still won't be telling the truth. I'll be telling a different lie. He's one of these guys who is just, they think they're super smart. Like every dumb criminal. They all think they're brilliant. And then Mueller is just like, I have all of these papers. I got all the documents because I got a bunch of fucking people working on this damn thing. Yeah. And all they do 24/7 is look into your emails and look into your life.
Also, I think for a traditional president, it would look bad if a president pardoned someone so clearly a misanthrope. But I think for Trump, it doesn't matter because he looked at these memos that Mueller released and immediately tweeted. What did he tweet? It was like...
no collusion.
I'm all clear, baby.
No, honestly, that's the one thing about Donald Trump that I really wish I had was just the pure optimism of looking at reality and then be like, look at that. In no way. It's like when you're watching your favorite sports team and they're just getting their asses kicked, and then you're like, but the Knicks had more free throws. Yeah. Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, just willing this delusion around him. Apparently, on Friday night, he just had like a big Christmas dinner at the White House and just like acted like nothing happened.
Well, I mean, what can you do? He's got to continue to be the president, I suppose. When it comes to controversial pardons, Bill Clinton's most controversial was Mark Rich. So what I'm saying is this is not like, you look at like Ford pardoning Nixon.
Right.
Huge deal, and it probably cost him his political life, honestly. So it wouldn't be the first time a president pardoned someone because, the pardon power is really strong.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, can he do it for political reason? It's like, he kind of can.
But from what I understand, Nixon was pardoned to like put it behind him. And let people like move on in their own the spirit of the country.
But then there were a lot of people who were just like, I kind of wish that guy got a little bit of, even though Watergate by today's standards, I don't think it's like, you broke into a hotel, did you? You got some papers, did you?
Lovely hotel, by the way. We stayed there in DC.
Really nice hotel.
Right.
They must have revamped it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was going to be like Nixon's pubic hair. I thought it was going to be like soiled and like having a real musty smell to it. It was classy.
Some portions of that structure were abandoned, and it was like an abandoned post office. But then the hotel itself was beautiful.
It was,
and they had a pumpkin with Nixon's face carved out, and it was beautiful.
It was. Mark Rich was an international commodities trader, head fund manager, financier, and businessman. He was best known for founding the commodities company Glencore, and for being indicted in the United States on federal charges of tax evasion and making controversial oil deals with Iran during the Iran hostage crisis. So when he was pardoned, a lot of people were extremely upset when Bill Clinton did that. So anyway, there is precedent for the president to pardon unsavory people, and it seems like that's what Paul Manafort is crossing his fingers and praying to God happens, because I don't think he's enjoying prison too much.
No.
Speaking of prison, let's move on to Michael Cohen, and then I want to talk briefly about what happened, speaking of the FBI, with James Comey. He went to talk to the Republicans again. Don't know why. No, I mean, obviously the Republicans are right now, they're in a lame duck Congress. They lost the House. I mean, that number is crazy. I believe it's 236 now for the Dems, and didn't do nearly as well in the Senate as they were hoping to. So this is lame duck nonsense. Basically, the Republicans are pushing forward right now, just kind of filling their days with red meat for their base, I suppose. Yes. So with Michael Cohen, dozens of pages were filed in federal court this past Friday, and Michael Cohen basically, he cooperated with Mueller. He was only charged with one count. Real nice, pretty easy going for the Mueller campaign. Only charged with one count. And that count was just lying to the FBI. I believe I think the sentence he was looking at was 0 to 6 months. Mm. Okay. The next one, though, is 8 counts, and that's coming from the Southern District of New York. For those that don't know, the Southern District of New York, it's one of the most powerful entities in the country. It's basically an international district. They deal a lot with terrorism. They deal, a lot with foreign policy, things that other, districts don't necessarily have to deal with. So the Southern District of New York, of course, Preet Bharara was the former AG there. Rudy Giuliani, a former AG there. Really powerful people have served for the Southern District of New York. They were not so happy with Michael Cohen.
They don't really like the cut of his jib.
They don't like the cut of his jib. And of course, being in New York State, Mueller gave them a lot of information. They exchanged notes. And apparently Cohen wasn't nearly as forthright or forthcoming with them as he was with Mueller. So they said, okay, I'm so happy you cooperated with this other dude. I'm so happy you cooperated with the special counsel, but we're still going to seek substantial jail time for your ass, prison time, because quite frankly, you haven't told us the truth, or you haven't told us nearly as much as what you told Mueller. So he is looking at anywhere up to 46 to 51 months, over 3 years in prison. So Cohen's been charged with 8 counts. Travis, what are those?
So 5 counts of tax evasion, okay. 1 count of making a false statement to a financial institution, also 1 count of making an excessive campaign contribution on October 27th, 2016, to Stormy Daniels.
Right. Okay.
So 130 to Stormy, and then 150,000 to Karen McDougal.
Okay, so we got we have the campaign violations here, the campaign finance violations. I got a couple of messages on my Instagram. I got some DMs on Instagram at Ben Kissel 1 if you want to see pictures of Puffin. He is so cute. But a lot of people were like, how is this a campaign violation? Because it is a little bit kind of gray. As a person who learned all this kind of stuff last year when it comes to campaign finance violations, the campaign finance law in this country is quite bizarre. And of course, on a federal level, it's pretty intense. So basically what they're saying here is Michael Cohen, on behalf of the campaign, not necessarily campaign funds, but on behalf of the campaign, paid off McDougal, paid off Stormy Daniels. Now, that was what we would call an in-kind donation, because theoretically it was to propel or help Donald Trump get to the White House so it would not hurt him politically if these stories came out that he had sex with all these porn stars, although given all the other stories that came out when the women weren't consenting to the sexual acts, I don't even think they're as bad. I don't even think they would have sunk him, quite honestly. No. I mean, considering all the things, the Megyn Kelly bleeding out of her wherever, just starting his entire presidential debate. The first debate he ever did was just a joke about Rosie O'Donnell. Right. So I don't even know if this would have hurt him. But nonetheless, that's why this is a campaign finance violation, because it's an in-kind donation on behalf, theoretically, of the campaign, because no doubt Donald Trump thought that it would have hurt his chances to be president. And again,
I think you're right.
Judging by how I feel right now about how the American people seem to care about that stuff, I don't think
none of that
would
stuff would have mattered.
No, I don't think
and honestly,
so.
Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels were public about this stuff before his campaign. Actually, they in a couple of magazines there were interviews done about this, and just nobody cared, or it was not of national importance, and so they thought they could sort of head it off at the pass, and then it turned out to be this bigger.
And of course, you're going to hear, if you watch the news and if you read the 47-page memo or the document, the 47-page document, you hear the word individual one, which is obviously Donald Trump. They're not allowed to use his name because he's not technically being charged here. But of course, they are allowed to use a person's title, and there's only one president. So it's pretty simple to understand.
I'm not sure he understands that he is individual one.
I don't know what he knows. I don't know.
Given his tweets.
I have no idea. I have no clue what goes on in the man's mind at this point. I don't know what goes on in the minds of a lot of people.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. John Edwards had similar campaign contributions.
Of course.
And that's the reason he dropped out, is because of the illicit affair with a woman he got pregnant outside of marriage.
That was, of course, a woman who was following him around, making a documentary on him. At this point, he was still married to, I believe her name was Elizabeth, R.I.P. And yes, he had a child out of wedlock. That whole thing really blew up in his face. Slightly more extreme because it happened in real time.
Right.
It was an affair that was going on as he was running for president, which I don't know how you have the time. These Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal's, I believe this goes back to 06, 07, early 2000s, or mid early 2000s, whatever. So there's a little bit of a difference, but yeah, absolutely, that totally sunk him. It sunk John Edwards forever. I don't believe he's even a lawyer any longer. He got disbarred, and he's just kind of living a peaceful life. Hopefully not in too much shape. He's not the worst guy in the world.
Well, he was taken to court for actually the campaign violation.
Right.
It ended in a mistrial.
Okay.
But so hopefully that's not the same. Hopefully that's not a statute for Trump.
Who knows?
Lean on.
Who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, that's the big conversation. Can you indict a sitting president? Well, who knows? The answer most likely is no on that, but he's not going to be a sitting president forever.
Yeah.
So this is according to the Southern District of New York. This is their sentencing memo regarding Michael Cohen. This is what they say. They say, in sum, the nature of Cohen's conduct underscores the need for a substantial period of incarcerations as a means both to promote respect for the law and to deter future abuses by other individuals seeking improperly to influence the electoral process, evade taxes, or lie to financial institutions. Never lie to a financial institution. Oh my God. It's worse than lying to the Pope. So that's where the SDNY is coming in right now with Michael Cohen. Perhaps he should have participated more, spoke to them more, told them the truth more. Who knows? Nonetheless, it looks like they have something to prove, and they really want to get some punishment for Michael Cohen, more so, of course, than the Mueller investigation. Number one thing in all of this, of course, is what did Donald Trump know? Of course, he said yes to the payments of Stormy and Karen McDougal. He would be the worst businessman in the history of businessmen if he did not. You don't just give away over $200,000. It just doesn't happen. But now the question is, what were the Russians' influence in all of this? And that's where we still don't know because the report hasn't come out. The documents that did come out from Mueller were heavily, heavily redacted. We basically got the name and the page number.
Yeah.
It was basically the only thing that was on there.
Well, it looks like Mueller is stepping back away from making this a Russian collusion investigation and more about he's going the Capone route, like the getting him on actual money stuff.
That's how they get you. The government is really good at getting money, and they know where it is. That's the one thing the government can do superbly when it comes to them being like clunky and slow and not really like having the most streamlined process of the vast majority of things they do.
But I think
one area they're good at is getting their money
people
back.
Are expecting to find photos of Trump and Putin,
Well, the interesting thing with all that is, of course, they're talking about a Trump Tower over in Moscow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Donald Trump's allowed. I mean, even when he's campaigning, he's still just a citizen. And he's a business guy. I heard that before. So he is allowed to make deals or talk to foreign entities about perhaps starting up a Trump Tower or whatever, and God knows where. But the question is, having Cohen, which apparently Michael Cohen spoke to the Russian government on behalf of Donald Trump,
yes.
What deal is being made there?
Right.
What's happening regarding their obvious desire to see this person succeed, even though I think it probably would have been better for them if he didn't in some ways. It certainly would have been better for Donald Trump.
Right.
And Jared Kushner, if he didn't win this damn thing, because then he would just have his Trump Tower, and he would not be, well, who knows what would be happening. I don't think there would be a special counsel, that's for damn sure. He might be in a little bit of heat for financial campaign violations and stuff like that. I don't think the scrutiny certainly wouldn't be nearly as extreme as it is now, because he's in the White House. So that's the main question. What was their influence? What did they, what did they encourage him to do? When it comes to the policies that the RNC wanted to change towards the Russians to put into their platform, why was that? There's just a lot there. And of course, if you're Donald Trump, I don't understand why he just can't tell the truth, even when the truth would be mildly beneficial. When it comes to Russian collusion, when it comes to all this nonsense, just say, I wanted to talk to them about building a Trump Tower. And then everyone would be like, well, yeah, that would make sense. And that's not illegal.
Yeah.
What's illegal is if you talk to them about ways that they could hurt Hillary, hence helping you, and then allowing them to undermine our democratic process. So it's right there. The way for him to get out is to be like, yes, I was talking. Yeah, we were talking. It was going to be great. It was going to be a great Trump Tower. That's all he has to do. Yeah. And they'd be like, okay, well, so now it's out of the realm of politics and it's in the realm of business. But he can't even do that. So it's funny. That's the ultimate irony of all of this. I thought they gave Donald Trump a little bit of an out,
right?
With the Trump Tower, be like, yeah, I was negotiating a Trump Tower, but he's too stupid to even take what I thought was a gift.
Isn't it like back in 2016? We were all, I think, even you and I had this conversation where it's like, oh, he's gonna lose and he's gonna start like Trump TV or whatever.
He was doing all that kind of stuff, and now, of course, he's bringing a lot of those folks from Fox News over to the White House.
But like he won, and that happened anyway. It's like either way, we got Trump TV.
We did.
We did. We're
well,
talking about him 24/7 now, and it's like, oh wait, he would have lost. He would have had some kind of big media thing, and now he won, and he got a big.
That's why, honestly, I think this was kind of the first time he acted properly after a former president or a former politician like John McCain, after they passed away, after someone who was, in the public eye for so many years, obviously that being George Herbert Walker Bush. He actually kind of acted appropriately in the fact that he shut up for the first time in a long time.
Right.
Of course, that ended
because he didn't eat a McRib at the funeral. That's him acting presidential.
Oh my God, that was fascinating. Seeing him, Jimmy Carter. By the way, isn't that interesting? Jimmy Carter was elected in '76, and he outlived Herbert Walker Bush, who was elected in '88.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Jimmy Carter and Willie Nelson, as long as they stay alive. That I believe that we could have eternal life. As if those two go, then I'm finally going to believe in the concept of death.
Well, Jimmy Carter builds houses like every weekend, so I think that keeps him pretty fit.
Yes, he's a great, great man. Rosalind Carter, of course, as well. So yeah, that was fascinating. So I think Donald Trump was like, hey, give me a little break from the spotlight ever so briefly to properly, maybe as a side effect, it looked like he might have been properly mourning, even though, whatever, I can't. It is what it is. It is what it is with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk briefly here. Talking about Mueller, I want to talk about Michael Flynn. Now, of course, he was the former national security advisor. Big on the Trump campaign. Absolutely crucial to Donald Trump. He was the first sort of military guy to come out and support him.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys that Donald Trump, he says, we're going to build the wall. And, of course, he was at the RNC. He got the lock her up chant going.
He was a big lock her up guy.
He was a big lock her up guy. The Arsenio woo, woo, woo. That was the Republicans' version, is lock her up. He was all in with Donald Trump. Yeah. National security advisor, as I just said. Next thing you know, he's out. Now, Mueller is like, okay, bro, you better start talking to us. Evidently, he talked a lot. And apparently, Mueller was happy with what he said, because he has recommended and he will receive no prison time at all.
Talked good. He
must have talked real good. Yeah, real sweet.
He's a real sweet talker.
Got Mueller showing that kneecap. So, evidently, Michael Flynn, because he was working with Mueller for so long, he could have worn wires. We don't know. We have no idea what he collected. Papadopoulos the same way, where Papadopoulos, we didn't know that he was working with Mueller because he was working with Mueller way back in July, and we didn't find out about it until a couple months later. So who knows what that dude has. And again, that's why this whole Mueller investigation, just let's see the documents, get it done, please, and so we can finally stop speculating. But who knows? Obviously, Flynn did something right because he's not going to be seeing life behind bars anytime soon, if ever. All right. So former FBI director. Now, this is just lastly, and then I want to get into Jeffrey Epstein, and Travis and I have a lot to say about that scumbag. So former FBI director James Comey, he spoke to House investigators behind closed doors. Now, this thing lasted about 7 hours. This is on Friday. Comey, who appeared under subpoena, announced after the meeting that he would return for more questioning December 17th. So what the hell are they talking to this guy about? Well, it turns out, this is according to Comey himself, he says, we're talking about Hillary Clinton's emails. For heaven's sake, so I'm not sure we needed to do this at all, specifically given, of course, the recent revelations involving Ivanka Trump and the unsafe email and all this kind of stuff that they're using. Donald Trump still has his traditional phone. He still has an everyday, a phone like you and I have. Extremely simple to hack. But of course, Hillary Clinton's emails are still on the forefront of Republicans' minds, again, in this lame duck Congress.
Apparently, a large portion of this testimony was Comey rebutting the idea, the statement that Trump made about him and Mueller, that Comey and Mueller were such good friends that they have been seen hugging and kissing each other, and Trump said he has photos of these. So a large portion of the testimony was Comey explaining, I've never kissed Mueller. I've never hugged him. I don't even know him. I don't have his phone number.
Wow.
I'm an admirer from afar, but I would never
I don't need to think about Comey and Mueller kissing necessarily, but I guess it's kind of hot. I'm sure honestly, I know for a fact there's fan fiction.
Oh, of course.
Oh, for sure.
Oh God, of course. Like that
is the one thing with Mueller.
The Mueller is coming people, where they like Photoshop Mueller's head on the Game of Thrones villain.
Yeah,
those people create erotica about these dudes, for sure.
I would think so. Sure. The fetishization of Robert Mueller is like, he is still just like a German inquisitor. Like, it's not like, he's not like this huge god or anything. People wearing the shirts and stuff. I'm like, you're wearing this man, like, it's just ironic, I always think, when the coolest kids are like, I just love Robert Mueller, this 70-year-old prosecutor. Anyway.
But I think that's probably why it was a closed-door session, is just so embarrassing, asking this man about emails, about if he kissed Mueller on the lips.
After questioning was underway, some Republicans signaled they were very unhappy with Comey's level of participation or cooperation. California Representative Darrell Issa, he's got Stonehenge for a face. Strong jaw on that guy. He said Comey had 2 lawyers in the room, his personal lawyer and a lawyer from the Justice Department. He said the department lawyer repeatedly instructed Comey not to answer, quote, a great many of questions that are clearly items at the core of our investigation. So it doesn't seem like they really got anywhere. And I'm just going to say this on behalf of the American people. Republican or Democrat, no one gives a shit about Hillary's emails anymore. She didn't win. It's all done. Well, let's move on. All right. So that's where we're at with James Comey. And again, that's really just a cliff note of this week, because again, it's not really it's just political theater and them attempting to say that they're doing something on behalf of Donald Trump and for the Republican base. So let's talk now. I want to talk about this dude. He is the U.S. Secretary of Labor. This dude's name is Alexander Acosta. Okay. He was the U.S. Attorney in Miami, and he approved a slap-on-the-wrist deal for known pedophile, creator of the Lolita Express, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is a rich hedge fund manager who recruited scores of underage girls to perform sex acts at his Palm Beach mansion and his homes in New York, New Mexico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So basically, this dude Epstein, he just surrounded himself with the most powerful people in the world. We got some princes coming over here from the UK. I think it was Prince Philip or Prince Albert. Well, I'm just going to call him Prince Albert, which is actually a strange piercing that goes on your penis. Mm-hmm. Of course, Bill Clinton, of course, Donald Trump, Stephen Hawking. He even hung out with the old Stephen Hawking. He used to go party with that dude. So recent revelations about billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's sweetheart deal with government prosecutors, thanks to a cadre of all-star defense lawyers who basically treated underage accusers like throwaways, are the tip of the iceberg in a scandal of money, power, sex, corruption, and the boys' clubs criminality. This story is like a Hollywood blockbuster. I suppose it's it's like the movie Spotlight.
Well,
I guess in that sense.
If 8mm was like a Hollywood blockbuster, it's a very sad story.
So he's accused, or he was guilty. He is guilty of, not accused. He was found guilty, given about 13 months, which he deserved, again, a hell of a lot longer than that. He sexually abused girls as young as 14. Evidently, this all began in 2005 when Epstein was accused of sexually assaulting a teenage girl at his Palm Beach home. Now, law enforcement expanded the investigation to other alleged assaults, including at his private island in the U.S., Virgin Islands. So he's hanging out with celebrities at this place, this personal island of his, which is crazy to even think that someone could have one, but he did. And it was cleverly nicknamed Orgy Island.
I get it.
Yeah, you get it, right? It's pretty on the nose. So Epstein's lawyers, now this is including Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz, I know, I used to work with him regularly at Red Eye. He was a regular guest. I have his phone number. Hopefully I never have to call him. But he also had some accusations of having sex with an underage girl, and he was here, and I don't know what happened with that case. I do know it got dismissed. Didn't really get a lot of the press that you would have thought it might have, but nonetheless, Alan Dershowitz, he is a guy who knows these wealthy folks, and he has been defending them for a long, long time. Of course, we know a famous individual that he helped as well.
Of course.
The Juice, of course, O.J. Simpson. So Dershowitz is helping this dude out, along with a former Whitewater prosecutor, Kenneth Starr. Now, Ken Starr, the ultimate irony of this is, of course, the Starr Report. This is the dude who wrote the 50 Shades of Grey President Edition in the 90s. So they negotiated a non-prosecution agreement that ultimately afforded Epstein an absurdly lenient sentence, just over a year in county jail. But now that wasn't even true. Epstein was allowed to stay in a vacant wing of the jail and spend up to 12 hours a day in, quote, his office 6 days a week. The agreement called for him to plead guilty to 2 state charges of soliciting prostitution, to pay restitution to some of the alleged victims, and to register as a sex offender. To say the least, this coup was a disgrace, shamefully misleading, since under the Florida law, someone under 18 can't consent to sex and therefore can't technically be, quote, a prostitute. It is otherwise ridiculous given the credible allegations in a 53-page federal indictment effectively dropped, which could have put him away for life. So how did this happen? Well, a dude who played a large role in this is now, again, the U.S. Labor Secretary. Dude's name is Alexander Acosta. Okay, Alexander Acosta. He was then the U.S. Attorney. Now, according to Ben Sass, of course, the senator out of Nebraska, he says this is an epic miscarriage of justice, all that kind of stuff. So it's getting some blowback from all sides. So basically what Acosta did, they turned underage child rape, which is what this is. That's what Jeffrey Epstein is. He's a child rapist. They turned it into basically an indictment on prostitution. They kind of flipped the script. It's similar to what you see in cases. It's going back to O.J. Simpson. They flipped it. The LAPD is now on the stand. West Memphis 3, Satanism. That's what we're talking about here. Not the innocence or the guilt of the 3 boys who were being wrongfully accused. So they flipped it and victim blamed the young girls who were, again, raped at 14, 15 years old by this billionaire on Orgy Island, Lolita Express. Who knows who else was in those rooms, by the way? Birds of a feather. I don't know. There's so many celebrities hung out with this dude. There's a lot of dirty fucking hands in this situation. So, going back to Alexander Acosta. This is what he said. He said his judgment at the time was that a jury trial might not be the best route. And a plea deal guaranteed jail time. Now, that is unbelievable dog shit. They just kept him out of prison. They kept him basically out of jail, from the sounds of it, 12 hours a day in a personal office where he was allowed to work 6 days a week. And it's because he has all the connections in the world. And you know for a fact he knows every single thing, or he knows a lot of dirt on these people that went to his parties on the plane Lolita Express, or on Orgy Island, or in his West Palm Beach homes. He knows what they were doing with these kids too.
Yeah.
And so everyone has a reason to make sure that this guy doesn't spill the beans. I suppose if he goes to prison for life, he has nothing else to lose. And next thing you know, we're hearing about Clinton, Trump, Stephen Hawking. Who knows?
I'm just looking at Epstein's mugshot here. He looks like if he didn't have an orgy island, he would just be one of the guys on 90 Day Fiancé. Like,
yes.
Just one of these scumbags.
I've been watching 90 Day.
I've been too. It's so good.
It's so bizarre.
But I was just looking at an article here from 2011. So he's being referred to as a billionaire. He's always being referred to as this financier billionaire guy.
Right.
Actually, he's not a billionaire.
Oh.
And it actually was a stipulation in turning over his finances to a Florida court that once his charges were being made public, they have to refer to him as a billionaire. So they kept bumping his amount of money up as a part of an agreement, a plea deal.
Disgusting.
You have to call me a billionaire if you also call me these things.
So Alexander Acosta, obviously he's taken a lot of political heat here, as he should. You remember this back in the campaign with Hillary Clinton, when she defended that child molester, and then she's like, I know he's guilty, but she's a defense attorney, and defense attorneys do what their title says that they should do, which is defend. And it was a huge deal. Alexander Acosta, he's getting a lot of political flack here. Obviously, the Secretary of Labor. He later wrote, this is what he would later write, that his own group of prosecutors faced, quote, a year-long assault, quote, by an army of legal superstars. It's a pitiful excuse for going easy on a serial child molester. So he basically, as Donald Trump, maybe he learned it from his dad, Donald Trump. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He made himself the victim. The prosecution it was a year-long assault, Travis, on the prosecution. So they had to go easy on a child molester. They were assaulted. It wasn't the copious amounts of children. Honestly, the number we'll probably never know. I'm assuming it's in the hundreds, because these parties, they said, were filled with underage girls serving drinks, sucking God knows what, doing a whole series of horrible things that they didn't want to be doing. So by the time Epstein walked into court on June 30th, 2008, the FBI had identified 36 underage victims, some as young as 14. None was brought in for the sentencing hearing, and most learned about it later from news reports. Epstein left the courtroom with a deal that would make any predator turn cartwheels. He pleaded guilty to 2 prostitution-related counts and would serve only 13 months in jail. So that is our current Labor Secretary of Labor, Alexander Acosta. He couldn't prosecute this man, this pedophile, because they were being assaulted by the defense. That seems to be the way that our system is set up. So that is a story that continues to come back and haunt him. And quite frankly, I think it deserves more attention. It was kind of a blip on this week's radar politically because of everything that's going on with Cohen and Manafort. But when we talk about institutional bias, when we talk about institutional corruption, this is it. If you want to look at it, this is a prime example. People go to prison for 10 times that for small amounts of drugs, or not paying speeding tickets, or getting a DUI for the 3rd time. Not even if you hurt anyone, not even if you get into an accident. People go to prison for a hell of a lot longer than that monster Jeffrey Epstein did for raping at least 36 girls.
Yeah, you can rearrange reality with enough power.
Absolutely.
And Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, if this is somebody who is a public figure and we know all of these things, and yet this is his punishment.
Right.
Our world is so dark. Our reality is just so dark.
You know,
like
as
the things
Marcus
that we
says,
do not know.
You know, there's no billionaires on death row, and I mean, it helps. You have money; it's a whole different reality, and that's just the way that is. But I do not believe. I think that Alexander Acosta. I don't want anything to do with this guy. I think he should step down as U.S. Secretary of Labor because he did not do his job. Now, again, this is before Twitter really took off, social media really took off. I wonder if this case happens now, specifically in the wake of the Me Too movement and stuff like that. But I don't know. I still don't know if it would be the same or not, because as we've seen on a regular basis, it's still extremely difficult to get the wealthy to actually pay for any of their crimes. That's why the Cosby thing was such a huge deal.
It's interesting because at the time when these things happened, when Epstein was being charged for these things, the girls were, like you said, like 14, 15, and now they've aged into adulthood in the Me Too movement.
Right.
So now they're adults during this period. So I wonder if that will help at all, although I'm pretty pessimistic about it.
Well, I don't know. I think you got double jeopardy to think about there, and unless he's still doing this, which I mean, obviously it's something he's probably continuing on. I think he would have to have new charges brought, but he is also accused of recruiting dozens of underage girls into a sex slave network. I mean, this is just horrible. Yeah. He bought their silence. Although he has been convicted of only one count of soliciting prostitution from a minor. According to a 2011 court filing by alleged Epstein victim Virginia Roberts, I believe Guffrey, she saw Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew on the island, but never saw the former president do anything improper. Guffrey has accused Prince Andrew of having sex with her when she was a minor, a charge the Buckingham Palace has denied. This is absolutely horrible. It was a horrible case. And the fact that this man, Alexander Acosta, got promoted, life just gets better for this man. It's absolutely pathetic. Epstein was also a regular visitor to Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, and the two friends, according to the Daily Mail, Trump was a frequent dinner guest at Epstein's home, which was often full of barely dressed models. And again, barely dressed models, totally fine as long as everyone's of age, and they're not there because they're sex slaves. In 2003, New York Magazine reported that Trump also attended a dinner party at Epstein's honoring Bill Clinton. Last year, The Guardian reported that Epstein's little black book, quote, little black book, contained contact numbers for Tony Blair, Naomi Campbell, Dustin Hoffman, Michael Bloomberg, and Richard Branson. So the man certainly had a hell of a lot of connections. Jane Doe number 3, this is what she alleged. She had been forced to have sex with, quote, numerous prominent American politicians, powerful business executives, a well-known prime minister, and other world leaders. So it is absolutely disgusting that Alexander Acosta is able to have his career get better while these women were sold into sex slavery, forced to fuck the most powerful people, silenced, and had their lives ruined as he now becomes the U.S. Secretary of Labor. I just think that's something that
I think on this occasion.
I mean, isn't there somebody out there who didn't help a pedophile only serve 13 months in jail? Isn't there any other option? That's the one thing with Trump where it's like, isn't there another? Same thing with like Kavanaugh. Isn't there just another option?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it possible that there's one other person, especially with Acosta here, where it's like, can't you find someone who didn't help a pedophile get off?
It's just the wealthiest person.
It's crazy. Oh, he loves that.
We need to bring back tarring and feathering people and start with billionaires. Billionaires are the reason.
Unless, of course, you're a billionaire and you're a listener to the show. Thank you so much for listening. There's
yes.
a lot. Honestly, I don't malign anyone based on their wealth. Bill Gates, very, very good person.
70% of the pollution of the world comes from 100 companies. Like 100 billionaires are the reason why the planet is.
Honestly, I got to do better with that. I drink so much. I have so much plastic I throw away.
Your little contribution to pollution does not matter.
It's not good.
It's billionaires.
It's billionaires. Epstein owns the $6.8 million mansion in Palm Beach, an $18 million property in New Mexico, and the 70-acre private Caribbean island. A Gulfstream, a helicopter, and a Boeing 727. And the whole time, he used his power to rape underage girls, as opposed to, honestly, man, you can do good stuff. You can do good things if you have a lot of money. Just do good things. You don't have to be a fucking total monster. And Alexander Acosta, I'm sorry that he was assaulted by the defense. I'm sorry he was so assaulted by the defense and gave this guy a sweetheart deal. There's no denying that his power and his political connections played a had a huge impact into why he only got 13 months. So anyway.
And I'm sure this is all very embarrassing to Dershowitz on Martha's Vineyard.
I don't think Dershowitz, no one gives a shit. That's the problem. All right, everyone. Well, that was the story that I wanted to cover because I don't know. It's don't you think that was worth covering?
It's darkness incarnate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, there we go. So we'll keep you up to date. Hopefully, by the next time we record, we can know what the hell is going on. Mueller's got to drop this thing at some point, right? Like, we have to know at some point. Can it be like a Christmas gift?
I think he's waiting till after the presidency. I honestly think he's building up.
We can't do 2 more years because everyone's going to go batshit. And people on MSNBC are like, I've seen them. They're just like, what are we supposed to say now? Because every day is the same. Someone, by the way, if you look at my Instagram, I'm watching Chris Matthews Hardball. Chris Matthews, by the way, I don't know why his lips are always wet, but they are. Someone farted. Someone farted. Did you see that on my Instagram?
I saw it. I didn't. I had it with the mute. I was muted. So did he actually make
somebody farted?
An audible?
Oh my God! I don't even know if it's possible to play this.
Play it.
Hold on a second. This is a huge, huge scandal.
The president directed that activity according to this memorandum today. Ken.
Yes, Chris, and in fact, Michael Cohen already stood up in court and said that when he pleaded guilty to these charges in the Southern District of New York.
Did you hear it? Did that pick up?
I think it did, actually.
All right, well, there it is. Definitive proof. There was a fart on Hardball. I want to know who did it. I think it was Matthews. I think it was Chris, because he's going to silence his mic, and he's getting a little old.
He shifts in the video.
I think Chris Matthews let it out. I mean, he's been on TV for so long. He's so comfortable.
Very comfortable, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think. Email Last Podcast Network. Email and DM me on Instagram. I don't really check Twitter too often. And if you want to check out my Talking Head stuff, you can just go to my YouTube channel. And there's a bunch of the stuff there. I think I'll be on Harris Faulkner's show this upcoming Thursday to yell about something. Who knows? All right, everyone. Hail yourselves. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Thank you, Travis.